all my life I had too much self-belief. Whenever there was something, I was like, I can probably do it. And sometimes I couldn't, and then you really, fall. It felt empty. Made a film and then I put it online. It went viral. Now it has 560,000 views. The people loved it. For every 10 compliments, I got maybe one hate comment. That one hate comment, that stuck to me. That pissed me off. The hate sticks in my case.
Each time you put something out, it is a little piece of yourself.
That was a moment where I was like, this is a bit scary. Maybe they aren't my people. It's just a process to become not scared but comfortable. Ended up being a really positive story about how people can change, no matter how worse their situations are.
Just quickly before we get into today's show, I have a quick favor to ask. Wherever you're listening to this, if you could just smash the subscribe button, it would mean an absolute ton. And it would not only help me now, but also help Rue, Elliot, and Gabriela continue building the quarter life crisis and help as many people as possible build a life they love. And with that being said, let's get started with today's show. Meije.
Yes, Ryan.
This is going to be very weird.
Yep.
But I start all my podcasts with the same question because usually it sets a narrative for the rest of the conversation.
Fair.
That question is, are you happy?
I am relatively happy.
Why relatively?
Because I'm at a point in my life almost done with studying and I'm really ready to get in the field instead of sitting in my room all day writing my thesis. So yeah, I'm really ready for the next step, I guess, and I feel a bit like, it's like the in-between phase of being a student and working, and and writing a thesis just kind of sucks, to be honest, but I just have to pass this last big hurdle, I guess, and then I'll be happier.
I had quite a mix of emotions before going into this one because I was actually thinking, obviously, for those that don't know, we know each other for well over 10 years by now.
Yes.
And yet I don't think we've ever really discussed any of the questions that I typically ask in my podcast. So I'm quite curious. Do you think we should chase happiness?
Well, I think happiness ideally comes naturally when you do something you love. And if you start chasing it, then it becomes something that you need to have. Yeah, if you chase something, then you'll never really have it, right? I mean, when you're happy, you just notice that you're doing something that makes you happy, and then you're not chasing that, but you're just doing something that you love. So I don't think we should chase happiness because that also makes it so heavy, Well, happiness should be like light and cheerful and just naturally, I guess.
For this podcast, I have a guiding research hypothesis, and that research hypothesis is that passion gives purpose. What's your thoughts on that?
Passion gives purpose. Well, I think so. I mean, if you do something that you're passionate about, then I guess that's your purpose. But I mean, that doesn't have to be work-related. Some people work a very boring job, but they get passion out of, coaching a football team or doing vrijwilligerswerk. What's it again?
Voluntary work.
Voluntary work.
Yeah.
So, I mean, passion can be about multiple things. And I mean, if you don't have a passion, some people don't have a passion at all or don't have a purpose. I mean, for my documentary, I go to quite bad neighborhoods, and sometimes the people I meet don't have a job, just sit at home and drink and just do fuck all. And then I guess that's their passion or something, or they don't have a passion, they don't need it, they just want to be left alone and live a minimalistic life. So I don't think anyone necessarily has a passion, right?
Not everyone has a passion, you mean? Yeah, exactly. No. With that being said, do you have a passion?
Smoking weed. No. Playing FIFA. It sounds so stupid. No, my passion is like I said, I make documentaries, and I do love that, and that's something that I'm lucky that I found a path in life, which is journalism, that I really enjoy doing. So I think you could call that my passion, and I'm lucky that that's also going to be my job. So that's like two birds in one stone.
Yeah.
I mean, I just like connecting with people and talking to them, and that's basically my job. And my job is also to edit documentaries, which I also like, even though it can be very mundane sometimes.
Yeah.
But then when you have an end product and people like it, that also gives a boost.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I used to think that if I'd get good ratings, that then I'd be happy and satisfied, and that would be my passion. But that's not...
Before we dive into that further, because we will get into it.
Yeah.
Obviously, or I know in your case that passion came along, or that path that you ended up taking into journalism wasn't your first decision.
No.
Straight out of the gate, out of high school, what did you end up doing? And more specifically, why did you end up doing it?
Well, you know what I did because you were there.
Well,
I did law for half a year, and I sucked at it. And that's mainly because I just thought it was very boring. But then again, the jobs that you can get with studying law are really cool to me still. For example, my stepdad is a lawyer, and I was sort of maybe unconsciously influenced by him as well, because he has a cool job. He's a attorney, and he, that's a really flashy, nice, cool job.
Yeah.
But the path to take until you get there is a long path filled with boring studying.
In his case, he is also, of course, quite a famous lawyer for Dutch standards.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe that it was actually the fame part that was what attracted you? Because if you look at what you do now, there are overlaps in that sense.
Yeah, well, no, not really. I think fame is a result of something you're really good at and should not be your main goal at all. Because then it's so empty, right? If you just want to become famous, well, then you are famous and you're like, well, fuck, this is no fun. I mean,
it's funny that you say that now, because I recall definitely when 5-6 years ago, before everything that happened did happen, the goal was always to be famous.
Was it?
Yeah.
No, I don't recall.
Or at least maybe not the goal, maybe not the goal, but it was like, I'm going to be. The conviction was there.
That's true, but that's also because in my head at the time, being good at my job and successful would involve being known. And it's still true. I mean, if my shit doesn't get watched, then I'm not really... Well, I can still be a good journalist, but in my head at that time, it was like the more people you reach, the better it is. What I learned from my stepdad especially is that fame isn't all that fun. I mean, you go sit at a restaurant, have a nice meal, and some rando comes joining... and you're like, well, and he always said you always need to be friendly, because else people are going to say, oh, he's so arrogant. So he is always friendly, but it's so tiring sometimes, so I don't think it's necessarily all that fun. Or like he has a twin brother, and at some point his twin brother was at a restaurant sitting with his wife, a blonde lady, and then on RTL Boulevard and in the privé there were like pictures of them, and it was like, is with a mistress, so you get all that shit too. It's just and they can laugh about it because he wasn't cheating or anything, but still, it's all the byproducts of their fame, I guess, and that's not always nice.
To dive back into what you were already elaborating a little bit on earlier, your first sort of experience with fame. Elaborate a little bit, sort of what you did and how that and what got you to that stage.
So for my studies, journalism studies at HBO, which is like applied university, I guess. I had to do a graduation thing, and I always did like pieces that I wasn't really passionate about I don't know, healthcare or some boring shit. I was like, for my last piece, I'm going to do something that I really, really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Well, that turned out to be this old show, a Dutch TV show called Probleemwijken, which is basically about the lower side of society, all the bad neighborhoods in Holland. And back in the days, they went, in 2005, it was first recorded, and then they went to all these bad places and interviewed people and showed a picture of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then years later, these people became memes on the internet. That's why I know them, because I know them as memes. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to try and track them down. And I'm going to check if these bad neighborhoods are still bad neighborhoods, or if it's like a completely false picture that was being painted.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went to one in Assen, a small Dutch town, and without any expectations, I just, made a film of about half an hour, and then I put it online. I was like, well, if I get 1,000 views, I'll be perfectly fine. And then it went viral, and now it has, I guess, 560,000 views. So then I was like, okay, that's unexpected, and people loved it and wanted more and more and more. And that was my first
experience.
Yeah, but not fame. I mean, it's not like, I get recognized. Maybe
results, maybe, or like big results, I guess.
Huh? Yeah. And I mean, sometimes a random person recognizes me, but it's not like I'm a celebrity, you know? It's still kind of niche on some level.
Yeah.
And that's when because what I told you before was that I was always like, I need to score in order to be successful, you need views. And to some extent that's true, but on the other hand, it also felt kind of empty, because then I had 500k and I had comments and everybody was, praising it. And then I was like, yeah, okay, cool, life goes on. I mean, it's nice that some random guy says, oh, well done, I loved it. And then the funny part is as well, for every 10 compliments, I got maybe one hate comment or even less, but that one hate comment, that stuck to me. And I was like, well, who the fuck do you think you are? That pissed me off. That kept me thinking.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird that no matter how much praise you get online, the hate sticks in my case. And hopefully a bit less now, but still, it's a ongoing process, because I'm still a beginner, obviously.
Yeah.
I've only made 2 documentaries.
And the second one, it got even worse, right? That specific...
Yeah, well, still a lot of praise, but also people started to hate on me. Like there was this whole forum, Reddit, you know it. And there was this whole thread about my new documentary, and everybody was bashing me in the comments, like, oh, who the fuck does he think he is? He's such a jerk, And I was like, who the fuck are you, first of all? I got mad, which is usually my first response, which is usually not really helpful. And then I was also like, how can these people, without knowing me, have such an opinion? And the people watched the whole thing. It was an hour long. The people watched an hour of it till the credits, and then they wrote like such a fucking huge article or like a post about it being shit and me being shit. Yeah. I was first of all like, fuck you, and second of all, why would you watch it for an hour when you hate it, and then also feel the need to write like a proper article about how much you fucking hate me and hate it. And that was for me new, because the first time I was obviously just a student doing something he loved, and people saw that and they appreciated it. Second time, people also still appreciated it a lot, but there was more backlash, I guess. But then I talked about to my stepdad about that, to my mom, she's also a journalist, and my dad as well. And it's just like in life, that's always going to happen when you put something out. Not everybody's going to like it. People are going to have an opinion about it. And if people wouldn't have an opinion about it, it would also be shit, It
reminds me when we were in the hotel, we would very regularly have customers that would then indeed eat the entire plate clean, almost lick it clean, and then be like, it tastes like shit.
Yeah, really. Yeah, what the fuck is your problem? But people are always going to find something to bitch about. Yeah. And they're free to do so. But just for me, and maybe also for you, it's good to let that go. And to not let that influence your actions or even your feelings, because at the end of the day, you don't know these people, you don't have a connection to them, so who the fuck cares what they think? Yeah, and that's really been a process for me to try and let that go and be like, who are you? I mean, go put something out yourself. Then if you but that's still I shouldn't say that, because then you still get into that anger. Emotion. Yeah. I shouldn't even be angry. I should be okay. Fine. It's your opinion.
Exactly.
Carry on with my day.
Yeah.
But that's a process.
But I think that's exactly. That's definitely you only get to know that by trying, right, or by doing. Yeah. It's not at the level that you are at, but I've had my own experience with a few times where you end up getting super random, like hate comments on TikTok for no reason whatsoever. Just some dude who's having a bad day and he's like...
Some creative ones.
Yeah.
The adult toddler.
For example, where he's not wrong, right? I was talking to Yasin last week in London. Yeah. And he has a new approach to dealing with these people, because he would have the same. He'd have somebody who just trolled on TikTok. Yeah. And he's now trying the approach of being radically positive. Oh, yeah. So whenever someone leaves a comment, like just just send like almost a quite elaborate text of like, I know you're probably going through something. I'm sorry you feel this way. I hope you have a great day, and whatever it is that you're struggling with, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And he's been doing this quite a lot now. And as a result, actually sees sort of an improvement. People either delete the comment or, you know.
Yeah, and I saw you doing that as well, actually.
Exactly. Respond with, you know, more positivity back and be like, hey, indeed, sorry, was a dick move or whatever, something like that.
Yeah, but for you as well, I mean, for my hate comments there were like maybe 100 positive ones, and for you it's maybe 1-on-1 or
exactly.
2-on-1
in some cases.
Yeah, so like how do you deal with that then? Does it bum you out a lot, or does
Yes.
it
Yeah. No, at times it's definitely it's a struggle.
Yeah.
Because when it's not really taking off yet, or something that I've really been struggling with at the moment, where you're like, I'm talking as if I'm an authority on a certain topic, but I'm not necessarily one yet. It's hard for certain people to take you seriously. And I get that. I even try and figure out other ways in order to claim that authority, to at least practice what I preach.
Yeah.
But yeah, then, you know, you always have friends who are super supportive, but then never comment, which that doesn't necessarily mean that the friendship doesn't matter. Like, people don't have to necessarily comment. But in the beginning, when you start creating something where you put something out there with regularity, each time you put something out, it is a little piece of yourself, right? So you hope that those people who you consider your friends understand that in the same way and are super love it equally. And at the end of the day, what I've come to realize, at least, is that the only one that loves it that much is actually you.
Yeah.
And also you have to account for maybe the people, your friends, just aren't your target group.
No.
Right? Like,
no.
That's also a struggle. So,
and how do you pick yourself up then from that negative feeling?
Seeing the bigger picture. Knowing in that sense that I think I contribute to something.
Yeah.
Looking at the smaller messages that I get, there's been a few people already who are like, hey, because of you, I end up doing this and that. Because of you, I'm giving it a shot. I'm trying something new.
Yeah.
And also, luckily, there's plenty of people who still tell me with regularity, also a lot of my guests who are like, this is worth something, keep going.
Yeah. Exactly.
But to say it's easy, that would be an understatement. Like,
yeah.
There's very regular that you're like,
yeah,
what the fuck am I doing it for?
Because what are you doing it for then? Also, you are also still in the mindset that you want a lot of views, basically, right?
I don't think I don't necessarily want a lot of views, but I would want sort of credit, I guess, like in the sense of what I'm putting in is being returned. So if that only means like 2,000-3,000 views per episode, cool. You know, that's 2,000-3,000 people that I'm helping on a regular basis. Yeah, fine, that's enough for me. But to get to that stage in the beginning is quite a build-up, and also to earn from it. Like, I think that's actually more important. I'm doing this because I just love doing it. Yeah, and the thought of having to do some other boring office job, like, even if it is in marketing or content creation, it will never be this. No, but on the other hand, like, I've also had this, because now I'm going to work almost, and I also thought, like, maybe I should just do YouTube full time. Yeah. But simply, I could make money off it, but not enough. And I talked to my mom about this, and she was also like, yeah, but it shouldn't be like that. You need to produce and produce and produce because you need to live. Yeah. So my perspective now is that I'm going to take a journalism job, I don't know, editor somewhere. Yeah. 4 days a week and then 1 day a week for my YouTube. And then I'm financially free to do so without anyone, breathing down my neck like, oh, you need to publish. And then I see it as like my creative playground and my very own podium, basically. And then I really put my effort into creating beautiful shit. And then if people dig it, that's fine. But I don't expect to live from it yet, you know? Yeah. So that gives me a bit more... Yeah. A bit less stress, I guess. I think what is definitely a difference between you and me when it comes to that, though, is the fact that you have no problem with being an employee, right? Like, you can work for people and that's fine to you. If it's a nice job, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I really have an issue when it comes to that. I really get very, very triggered when people tell me what to do.
Yeah, well, same, but I mean...
But in like, I don't know, at some point I then obsess about every annoying detail, like even the fact that I have to work a 9 to 5, then that pisses me off. Or...
Yeah, but there could be a job out there that's really... I mean, everybody's going to start somewhere, that's first of all.
Yeah.
And you can, of course, grow into it and get a really nice, creative job where they, let you do your thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be my ideal situation.
Yeah.
Or like, for example, if I work at the NOS, which is like a Dutch broadcasting service for, journalism basically.
Yeah.
Then you do cool shit. You go out to, I don't know, demonstrations or you go out there and film the news, report the newood.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is not really, doesn't feel like I'm working. It feels like I'm doing shit that I love, you know? So then I would, and then of course you still have a boss, but I mean, if you produce good news stories, then you're fine,
Yeah, I mean, at times I definitely still see myself going back into that. I could imagine at some point because there is also a lot of stress that comes with starting your own company, and also a lot of accountability and self-dependence. And if you don't show up, nothing's there.
And also just money. I mean, you're becoming a father. You need to. I mean, even I need money to live, and I only have myself to care for.
Yeah, exactly.
So you need some sort of basis income, and I think at a job you can also learn certain capabilities that otherwise you wouldn't have known. Because let's face it, we're still beginners. We're 26.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's quite young still.
Yeah.
So it's also a place where you can develop yourself if you find the right job, of course. Because that's maybe the issue, that you don't want a boring, mundane job where you do something that you don't really support, right?
Yeah, I think it's not just that. I think it's also just I have a certain way of how I think content should be distributed and displayed as a company.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of companies aren't on board on that. That doesn't mean they're not there, but a lot aren't necessarily on that same path yet.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's less sales driven, more focused on providing value.
Yeah.
Meaning that the one-on-one conversion is much harder to be found, and as a result, it makes it much harder to find a company that's looking for that.
Okay, yeah.
So when you're then like, okay, I want remote, part-time, with the content approach that I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
In general, being a content creator, by the way, remotely is incredibly hard.
Mm-hmm.
To then indeed add on to that part-time remote content creator is almost impossible.
Yeah.
But well, I'm curious. Let's see if I can make it work.
Yeah,
but
of course, yeah.
You already mentioned you're doing your master in journalism now.
Yeah.
As that comes to a close, is there any level of worry or insecurity about the next stage of your life, I guess? The sort of study period finally being over?
Mm-hmm. No, I'm really excited to begin the next phase of my life. Also because I have really clear in my mind what I would like to do in the journalism field. Well, not perfect, but just I have an indication of which organizations I'd like to work with. And the thing is, with my master's in journalism, I mean, you basically get in easier because it's like the highest level of education for a journalist, except if you do PhD, but then you're kind of crazy. No, but so it's so it's easier to get in.
Yep.
And I'm lucky that I do have some contacts, that can also maybe help me a bit with getting into a place. And as of a whole, I don't really have that quarter life crisis, to be honest. So maybe I'm a bad guest, but no, I don't.
Maybe it's still coming.
I think so. No, if anything, I'm looking forward to the next phase, and I'm kind of done with being a student. Yeah. Also because I'm poor, and all my friends are basically working, and I'm still studying, and it's just I would like also to have some regularity in my life. So basically, I think having a job will kind of shoot me into the more adult lifestyle, I guess, and give me the rhythm that I need to also become more productive, you know? So yeah, I don't really feel like I'm afraid of it. No, I'm just like, come on,
yeah, exactly.
come here, you know, let's make it happen.
One question that has organically become a bit of a recurring question is, what was the time you nearly quit and what made you keep going? Is there any situation that comes to mind?
Well, no, well, not really. Yeah, there have been plenty of occasions during my because at first I did HBO and now I do university, and then I had to do statistics all of a sudden, and I suck at that. So at that point I was like, you know, is this for me? How the fuck am I going to get through this?
Yeah.
But then I've always been also kind of lucky, to be honest, with students that I just got the benefit of the doubt, or, you know, that they would, I had to do some extra assignment, but they would still let me on. So I guess I always got saved by the bell. And I'm not sure if that's...
what do you call that? Luck?
There's a Dutch word, gunfactor, maybe
Right,
it's
okay,
that.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
What's that in English? Gunfactor?
I don't know.
No, we'll translate it one way.
Yeah, exactly.
But just in the subtitles, I just think that's something that I got away with a lot of things that maybe I shouldn't have, but still, I mean, now I'm almost through it, so I'm really thankful that, I just kept doing it. But I haven't been, also with the documentary, of course, it was hard as fuck, and yeah, maybe I do have, for my second documentary, I went to this probleemwijk Woensel West in Eindhoven, which is a city in the south. And I first got there without a camera, just all by myself. And then I rang the door of one of the biggest old memes from the old show, you know. And his wife opened the door and she was shouting like, oh, get the fuck out of here, you know. And just really became really angry at me. And then the whole neighbor just sort of like walked outside. And I was like really scared. I was like, holy shit, you know. These people are rough, you know.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I went in the train back home. I was like, is this for me, you know? This is a bit scary, you know. But it took time to gain their trust, and I had the help of people from the neighborhood who wanted to help me.
Yeah.
That was a moment where I was like, you know, this is maybe not. This is a bit scary, you know.
Yeah.
This is these people. Maybe they aren't my people. But the thing is, you need to get through that shield that they put up, basically, because of course they just don't like media because they've been screwed by the media before. But then, it's just a process of gaining trust, and for me as well to also become not scared around them but comfortable. And, you know, that's...
A lot of people would probably not really bat an eye at these people you're talking about, because clearly in most situations they live in sort of the less developed neighborhoods of the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Do you feel at all like you're a bit of a Robin Hood speaking up for almost the poor in that sense, to make an analogy?
No, I don't feel like Robin Hood, but I do feel that these people that I meet, even though they may appear rough and sometimes scary, but when you get through them, they really open up to you. And as a journalist, it's really nice that when I have a camera guy with me and he points his huge camera at them, that they still stay themselves instead of putting up an act because there's a camera.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think for a lot of people, when they see a camera, they kind of like probably think, oh, that's a big camera. Oh, I need to, you know, maybe make myself nicer than I am. And these people are really pure and they are themselves. Maybe because they have nothing to lose. I don't know. But I see the beauty in that, basically, and I think a lot of people are really intrigued by these people because they live such different lives from normal people. Yeah,
exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't see myself as like a Robin Hood. It's like these people are. I just see myself as sort of just documenting their lives and showing people that they are also funny or
fine, right? Like
or just have emotions and have struggles as well, and just show real life, basically. Because if you look at the telly and the talk shows, I mean, is that real life? No, it's probably... I've done my internship at a talk show, and it's mainly politicians, famous people, artists, people who've done something extraordinary. You don't see the normal society at the talk show tables.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean, my stars are also not the normal society, but it is a different side of society that barely gets any attention in media.
Do you want to talk about the second one, or legally
fine.
not allowed?
Yeah, no, I'm allowed. Fuck Talpa.
Yeah, because obviously you made a second documentary. Obviously, the first one got like 500,000 more views, went insanely good, and then you go and make a second version.
Yeah.
Go through the whole process again, edit after like 6 months of work, right?
6 months of pre-work to
exactly.
gain their trust. I went there 10 times maybe, and just and then filming for 3 days, and then indeed 6 months more of editing.
Yeah.
Also because I'm a beginner and
I
was a bit autistic. Like it needs to be. It's my baby, so it needs to be perfect. And
Or I remember for you it was a little bit like, okay, was the first one lucky, or was it? Or was it actually because I had something good? You put it out, end up getting 420, I think, at its max, right?
Yeah, 40, I guess. Yeah, something like that.
1,000 views again.
Yeah.
And then the people behind the original show end up taking it offline.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Shitty. No, the people, because I used some old footage to illustrate how it was back then and how it is now. And legally, that footage belongs to Talpa, the company behind SBS, which is where it first appeared. And Talpa is a huge company, and I think they have 20 lawyers just roaming the internet for anything that has their stuff in it. And of course, mine got a lot of traction. And I'm also kind of critical about the way they dealt with things.
I was about to say, because do you really think it's because you used the footage, or more because of the...
Well, I called the lawyer, and she was really saying that it's purely about the footage, and that, of course, I'm allowed to express my criticism. And she also said that if I take out all of the old footage, then it should be fine again. But... that's just kind of you need to see how it was, you need the old footage to see what it's like now and how these people have changed. So it's just kind of a bummer. And then I approached them about, well, this goes really well on my relatively small YouTube channel, so maybe why not cooperate with each other.
Exactly.
But it's still quite sensitive for them, because the series had a lot of backlash. In one neighborhood, there were riots and everything. And
but on them,
because of their show.
Okay.
The whole neighborhood rioted, and also, well, they were just doing, for example, in my second documentary, there's one guy, Kees Kachel is his name, and in one shot he goes to visit a prostitute, and he has a microphone on. Now, what happens? SBS destijds, the makers, they were like, here, Kees, you got €50. How about you go there to that prostitute and you keep your mic on, right? So that's a bit morally...
coerced.
Yeah, that's just not really morally acceptable anyway. And then this guy, still after 18 years, he's being called, hey, you dirty old, this and that. Because of that one moment that got aired on national television as well. And is now having a second life on the internet. So they basically fucked his life up because they wanted to score. And that's something that I... went to that guy. I was like, well, what was the impact on your life, and how was that for you? And he was, of course, being a bit negative about SBS. So they really do not want any PR or any more attention to that series. It's like a trauma for them, I guess. And me poking around in it isn't really nice for them.
No.
But and they have power. Let's face it. They have a whole legal team, and I'm a student who doesn't have that. So, and at the end of the day, technically, they're probably right, because I didn't get the old footage the legal way. So, I'm afraid that this is the end of the series for now.
Right, so you made your mind up there that you're not going to do a version 3 then?
Well, that's going to be really difficult if I don't get the old footage, because you want to see the old memes basically and see what it's like with them now. Yeah, maybe I can think of some way that we have like a screen which shows it and they watch that screen or something. You know, you can be creative about that.
Yeah.
But for now, I think it's best to leave it for a little bit anyway.
Because I remember in your first episode, at some point, you're speaking to a lady who indicated that as a result of this show, she couldn't get a job, right?
Yeah.
And still is struggling.
Yeah. Well, she's doing better now, but indeed she couldn't get a job. Her kids weren't invited at birthday parties from other kids because she was the mother, and they knew her as that asocial woman, because in the show she was really mad and drunk and just not a particularly nice human being. But then 18 years later, she talked to me and she's completely changed, right? She went to the clinic to get sober. She went through this whole process of basically healing herself. She also moved out of that neighborhood, and now she's a completely different, normal, really nice woman. But she still gets that stigma from the show 18 years ago, you know? So
exactly.
And that for her, my episode was sort of redemption. And people in the comments like loved her because she was so different than what she used to be. Yeah. And she's really put the work in to change. Yeah. So it was ended up being a really positive story about how people can change, you know, no matter how worse their situations are. Yeah, so that was good.
If you're anything like me, entrepreneurship and being a creator has given me the life of freedom that I have so long looked for. But in order to allow me to continue doing that, I have to keep my paperwork in order, meaning that invoices have to be sent, my taxes have to be done, all receipts should be saved in the same place. And this was something that frustrated me for years until I found Moneybird. And luckily, they have decided to sponsor the Quarter Life Crisis podcast. So if you're like me and you're looking for one tool where you can send your invoices, send invoice reminders, store all your contacts, store your receipts, figure out how you should do your taxes, and you're a creator or entrepreneur in the Netherlands, then Moneybird is the tool for you. It has saved me so much time and hassle, and I can strongly recommend. So with that, thanks for listening, and let's get back into today's show. Going a little bit back to your sort of upcoming graduation, and also you knowing or having figured out your own life, I guess, a little bit, or what you want to do. That's maybe the better. Have an idea of what you want to do. Do you have any like advice? Is maybe difficult because you haven't done it yet, but do you have any like thoughts about if you're in this quarter life crisis situation and you're trying to figure out what path to take after university, how people could figure that part out?
Yeah, I think you need to be really introspective and really find out. Yeah, that's such an open door, but like you need to find out what makes you happy and what you love doing. For example, what you had with the whole if you like animals, you can, and you're not a veterinarian. Then you look at other ways to work with animals, or when you, I don't know. It's difficult because if you really don't know what you want, it's difficult to find something, right? And for some people, a job will never make them happy because they just have other things that make them happy. And then a job is just a means to get by, and you can still have great coworkers or like banter all day, I mean, that's also important. I think you just need to start somewhere, see if it fits, maybe keep your eyes open for new possibilities as well. Yep. Right? Fair enough. Yeah, but it's difficult. It's really difficult. Do you think you will have a quarter life crisis? Well, it should be happening fast then, because I'm 26 now. Fair. You get the idea. Maybe a midlife crisis. Yeah, I think I'm more of a midlife crisis guy. I think honestly, once I've really succeeded in my profession. So for example, my dream is to be a talk show host eventually, and I can imagine that once I hit that dream and I become one, and I do that for 2 years, then you've basically had it all, and then you're rich and you're 50 and you've got everything you want. And that then the realization is like, okay, and now what? Yeah, exactly. I think for now I have too much of a career to play that game. Yeah. And to try and accomplish that game. I see it as a game, basically,
It's an interesting approach.
Yeah, and then when you've gone through that, I think that's when it's going to hit me.
Right.
When I'm all lonely and wifeless and childless, because I focus on my career all the time, and I'm gonna wake up one day and be like, "What the fuck have I done?" You know? Yeah, but not really quite. No, I'm too. I don't know. Just don't really.
Fair enough.
Feel down
That's okay.
about that. Yeah.
Don't have to make it up if you don't.
No, not really.
Okay. Do you think there's any downsides to chasing your passion?
Yeah. Well. If you're really passionate about something, it's going to cost a lot of hours if you want to make it. If you want to make it successful, I guess you need to grind. And sometimes it's frustrating, especially for me. For example, with editing, I mean, I knew I wanted to do this, but I had no idea how to edit, and that caused a lot of frustration and a lot of anger and a lot of YouTube videos, endless YouTube videos, or crashing equipment and. I was really pissed about that. So it's not always fun and games, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I can imagine when you're a footballer and that's your passion, and it sucks to train every day and never be able to go out and do fun shit,
Yeah.
So I think there's always two sides to a coin. Or
I was talking to Dirk this morning. He's a business coach, but he started as a professional basketballer.
Oh, yeah.
And we had an interesting discussion because he said at some point he was at this similar crossroads, I guess, where he's like, okay, I can either commit now and try and get to like Spanish or German leagues, or I can figure out something else. And his self-awareness, which I really resonated with because I had similar issues with my music career, made him end up deciding to not go the basketball route, but instead try sports marketing, and that led him to ending up becoming a business coach, and actually very happy as a result. And we discussed the question of, do you think people always inherently know what they want to do?
No.
You don't think so?
No, I think a lot of people, especially if you look at all the HBO studies, like for example, human resource management. No offense, but I don't think that there's anyone who steps out of bed and is like, oh my God, I know what I want to be. I want to be in human resource management. But then, like I said, it's a means to an end. Yeah. Because maybe they love, going to the theater or acting or playing sports a lot more than their work. I mean, at some point, people are going to have to find a job. I mean, that's sadly how it works without a basisinkomen. Maybe it happens at some point. But
or let me rephrase the question, because the topic was more about the fact of self-belief. Yeah. And knowing in that sense your own abilities. And we made the distinction between people who really make it as DJs, as pro ballers, as musicians, whatever you want. They have a certain level of self-belief that gets them to that stage. If you don't have that, you won't make it. Yeah. That is maybe the better question.
I think that's actually true. And I actually think all my life I had too much self-belief at some point. I whenever there was something, I was like, I can probably do it. Yeah. And sometimes I couldn't, and then you really, fall. Yeah. But on the other hand, you at least try it then. Yeah. I also read this research, I don't know the exact numbers, but it was about women and men applying for jobs that are above what they can. Yeah. And somehow most women, if they see an advertisement for a job.
Job requirements.
Yeah, they check it, and if they only apply if they have 100% of every requirement.
Yeah, I think it was 90, but
90,
I know
whatever.
what you mean. Yeah.
Whereas men are like with 40% or so, they're like, oh, I can probably do it. Let's give it a shot. And then if you have confidence in that sense, then even though it might be false, but if you sort of radiate confidence, the people who are going to interview you are going to be like, oh, okay, well, he's confident,
Yeah, exactly,
and he can probably do it, even though you maybe can't, but then you'll learn on the job. Yeah. It's like the opposite of imposter syndrome, I guess, and you're like, oh, yeah, I can do it,
Yeah. Anybody can. If I can do it, he can.
Yeah, and I also have that in...
Fake it till you make it, I guess, then.
Well, for example, with me, my documentaries, I need to go in front of a camera and present. and I had never done that. And I was like, how difficult can it be, you know? And
It's not entirely true, except for our side project situation.
yeah, okay, fair enough.
Let's not give people a reason to look that up.
Yeah, no,
sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, but then I didn't have any experience whatsoever, but I just did it. And then at first I was nervous as fuck, of course, but I did it.
Yeah.
But then the second time I was like, okay, potentially 500,000 people are watching while I do this.
Yeah.
So that gets in your head. But then you just need to forget that and just be natural and say what you see or what you experience or just present it.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's fine, you know.
Yeah.
But if you go into that situation and be like, oh no, I can't present because I've never done it and it's scary. And I'm probably not good enough because I've never done it. It's like a vicious circle. Like, I've never done it, so I probably can't. Whereas I'm like, I've never done it, but fuck it, I think I can, you know? And
yeah, because I just said, fake it till you make it.
yeah.
Do you believe you are, or do you believe yourself you are faking it? Or do you just think you can?
Yeah, no, I don't think I'm faking it. Because journalism is also what I said, just connecting to people and plugging in on them and then asking the right questions to get the response you desire or the response that's relevant.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm kind of a social guy, so that's half of the job. And so I don't think and my mom's a journalist, so it's in my genes, I guess.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think I'm necessarily faking it. But there is some truth in that, I guess, because I think everyone who is beginning in a career path is sort of faking it.
Yeah.
I have this friend, I won't mention his name, but he is a consultant now.
Okay.
And he has to consult big companies, and he's just started out. And then, it was his first gig, and he had to give an advice. And the company was like, oh, but have you done this before? You know, how can you be so sure? And he was like, no. But now he didn't say that because you're not allowed to say that.
Yeah.
The company disallows it. But then he also had to make something up. But I mean, you need to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And then you are faking it in a sense. But I think that's normal if you start out because you don't have the experience yet that you ideally would have or something, right?
Yeah.
And everyone... yeah, then you're sort of faking it, but that's normal. And if you fake long enough, you start becoming good at it.
You at least start believing it.
Yeah, but also you start actually, in any field, you start working and you get experience, and then eventually you're not faking that anymore because you're doing your job.
We have a recurring segment on the show. I'll do my little magic trick now and pull out my jar.
Yeah, there we go. Shouldn't we do it better, like clapping?
Yeah, exactly, and then I'll cut it in.
No, you do. I clap,
You clap.
and you put it.
Okay, let's do it.
Great.
I'm not gonna cut any of that out.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. In the jar are community questions that I collected.
Of course.
I'd invite you to take one out, read out the question, who asked it, and your response to it.
Okay.
Chances high you'll probably know one of the people.
At what age did you lose your virginity?
Ah.
No. How do you get out of self-doubt moments? From your girlfriend.
Yeah.
How do you get out of self-doubt moments? Yeah, and that's how... There we go again. I don't really doubt myself that often. Even though maybe I should. No. And that's maybe really arrogant or something to say, but... Well, maybe... Yeah, I mean, for example, with dating life, because I'm still single, and I do try the dating apps or whatever. Yeah, but... and I have matches, but it just doesn't really work out a lot. So then I'm like, okay...
Is it
going
me?
on?
Yeah, exactly.
Am I that? Appalling?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess those are more than that I doubt myself.
Yeah.
But then when you go out and you have a nice conversation with a girl, for example, I mean, I just think you can have those thoughts and it's okay to have them, and you maybe need to reflect on them and be like, well, why would I think that? And is there any truth in this? But then you shouldn't be stuck in them, I guess.
Yeah.
You just need to go out again, try, and maybe fail, but maybe also not fail. And
Yeah.
then, and yeah, at some point you're gonna get out of self-doubt, I guess. But it's not really. I'm not a authority on this.
Doubty kind of guy.
No, not. But well, yeah, maybe with dating life, then
Yeah.
you know, then I could be doubtful about like. I mean, you're getting a fucking kid, and you're having a relationship for years, and a lot of my friends, yeah, some are still single. Fortunately, shout out to you guys. So in our age, you have people getting married, people getting kids, people still studying like me.
People still drinking every weekend.
Exactly like me, smoking weed like me, and just also really serious people or people making careers. So it's a really confusing age in that sense.
Yeah.
That there's also not really, and of course there's not really one path that's normal, right? I mean, anything can be possible at our age. That's also the beauty of it, I think.
Not just at our age.
At any age. But, I mean, it's kind of sad if you still go out every fucking day when you're 50, I guess.
Yeah. I know it's going to be super hypothetical, but to ask a bit further on the idea of relationships, obviously you're quite an ambitious guy as far as career goes. Do you have any thoughts about how you're going to be able to combine relationship and career? Should it eventually come around?
Well, for that I would need to have one.
Yeah.
No.
That's why I said it's super hypothetical.
Combine it. Yeah, well, ideally, my life wouldn't be all career. I think that's unhealthy too. And I'd like to have a girlfriend who also has her own career, you know. Yeah, it's really, like my longest thing was like 6 months, so I've never really experienced a proper relationship, so it's really hard to imagine that as well, you know.
Yeah.
Because like living together, for example, I mean, I really don't know how I would deal with that.
Yeah.
You know, because I like to be alone as well, and
Yeah.
I guess I need space sometimes. So yeah, but you'll make it work, right? So
Yeah.
how about you answer that? You're the authority on this.
A lot of communication. In most cases, over-communicate even.
How do you over-communicate?
You can talk about something yesterday, and a day later you talk about it again, and a day later you talk about it again. And I think, especially from my perspective as a male, often you think, we've spoken about it, so it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's probably better to over-communicate and sort of make sure that you're still aligned and that, you know, everybody's clear what's going on.
Do you have an example?
Do I have an example? A lot of the times I get very caught up in the editing process. Obviously, I do most of the editing, at least for the long form stuff that I put out.
Yeah.
And I have this annoying habit of editing, and then we go for a walk, for example, and then I come back and I go and do I look at it quickly, and that ends up being half an hour, even though the intention was to go cook dinner at that moment together, right? And I said I would go and do it together, but because I go upstairs, I'm like, just quickly, and then before you know it, half an hour passes.
Yeah.
If you do that once, fine. If you do that 5-6 times a week, then it starts getting annoying, especially when Kira, in this case, is like, hey,
I told you this.
I've cooked 6 days, 6 days this week. How about you do something?
Yeah.
Besides me having to be more aware of the fact that I do that, essentially a downfall of myself. Also over communicating and being like, hey, I'm going upstairs. I'm going to quickly do this. I will be back in half an hour, or I will set a timer, or, you know, that at least everybody knows what the deal is. And that's what I guess I mean with over communicate, how I'm trying to solve at least that issue at the moment. So there's multiple things, but I find that over communicating is often the solution to dealing with at least that problem.
Yeah, fair.
Which is only going to get more now with the kid on the way, of course.
It's also a lot of communication.
Yeah.
But the question was also about combining ambition with...
passion with relationship, fair. Very journalistic of you.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm still figuring it out. It's hard.
Yeah.
Because for one, I'm very new to this. Right now, everybody's still super excited about it. Kira's very supportive of me. I can only praise her for being so. She's very calm.
Yeah.
She sees the potential in it as much as I do.
Yeah.
But I'd run something where the potential of it scaling is relatively unknown. Of course, you can do a lot to improve, but whether or not it will actually explode within 1 year or whether it will explode within 3-4 years is questionable.
Yeah.
Now, with a child on the way, or in general, as it just costs money right now. There is nothing coming in from it, right? It's just costing more and more money.
Yeah.
And I think at some point I could imagine, no matter how much, or like, let me just put it this way, I would understand if she ends up getting annoyed by the fact that it continuously, like, hey, you said probably be a year, now we're going on 3 years.
Yeah.
When's that ball gonna drop? Is it going to drop, right?
Yeah, because for example, at what point are you going to be like, okay, maybe this doesn't work, right? I mean,
that's the question.
Ideally, it doesn't happen like that, but it could happen.
Which sort of relates back to the discussion we were talking about earlier, as far as the self-belief and the conviction that it's going to work. Because if I start in this now with the assumption that it won't work,
then it's not going to work.
Exactly.
But
and that is why it's like,
yeah,
it's a lot to balance, because it's not just myself anymore, right?
No.
Where you do start to question quite regularly, and that is also where over communicating comes back in. Like, I have to check in with her super regular to see, is it still okay?
Yeah.
Are we still fine?
Yeah.
The moment she starts indicating that it's starting to bother, I'm not necessarily saying that I then quit. That's maybe too quick.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, that's going to then make certain things, reconsider certain things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I think that's also only with her. Anybody else has doubts, I don't care.
No.
But I think in order to, also not have my relationship go at the cost of which is something that I've asked this question obviously multiple times. And that is something which comes back. So when people...
Relationship over ambition, basically, that's...
No, or well, yes, that relationships can go at a cost of chasing your passion. Yeah. And when people ask what the risks are of chasing the passion, that is something which is
that's a pretty high potential risk.
Exactly, that's a pretty high risk.
Yeah.
And what I then remind myself is that at the end of the day, even if I scale this podcast and become the next Joe Rogan, it's gonna stop at some point.
Yeah.
Right, at some point it's just gonna be done. I could either be cancelled, or I could be just no longer interesting.
Too old for the quarter life
Too old.
crisis.
It doesn't matter. Like, at some point, it's just gonna be done.
Yeah.
And if I'm then sitting at home, maybe in a huge house with a fancy car and whatever it is, but I have no one to share it with.
Yeah, that's not worth it.
Then it's like, what's it been? What did I do it all for?
Yeah, it's a balance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a struggle.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Which leads to the final question.
Yeah.
What does the future hold for Meije?
The future, well, maybe move out of this dumb. No, just kidding. No, love my little house. No, the future holds. Well, I'm going to make a new documentary centered around the main character of my old show, Appie. He was a big meme. He got millions of views on TikTok, so the interest is there. So that's on the short term, like my new project, because I do believe that I do need a project to keep the fire burning,
Yeah.
And then build a portfolio, hopefully make more shows, also get a job. It's going to be a bit 60-40, so that's career-wise. And yeah, for the rest of it, hopefully just be able to live in Amsterdam normally, not have financial worries. Maybe get a girlfriend at some point. But like I said, the end goal is still to become a late night show host, basically.
Yeah.
But that's all career-wise. Career-wise, I have it really thought out to a certain extent. But the rest is kind of vague to me, to be honest. And also, I don't really know what I want or what I need,
Yeah.
Of course, I'd like to go on a solo trip sometime and do all that stuff. And
I'd be very curious to see what happens in your case if it all comes sooner than expected. As in, let's say, in 2 years or even one, within next year something happens. You don't know. You don't know. You also didn't think your first video would blow up.
True.
So if then all of a sudden you have it all,
Yeah.
what that does then.
Yeah, maybe then I get my crisis.
Yeah.
Because I do still have this picture indeed in my head that when I'm successful in the sense that brings happiness, even though I know that that's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
I mean, the process of
But
making...
you chase it anyway somehow.
Yeah, because I like the process of making documentaries. I love going out there to wherever and have a cameraman and just, go on an adventure, because that's basically what it is. But then when you get success, like, it's nice, but I've tasted that a little bit now, that doesn't really... Numbers are just numbers. They don't really create happiness at all.
Yeah.
But still, I go for it or something, right?
Yeah.
And so I do think that but it seems to me like not a logical thing, but I do it out of passion, sure. But I just know that probably it's not going to bring true happiness, So then it might be a quest to finding out what does.
Well, I will be front and center to follow along.
Yeah.
I'm very curious. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you.
And this wasn't as mad as I would have expected it to be.
No, you'd expected more of the fucking charts comments.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I want to thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments. And if you want to stay up to date on everything from the quarter life crisis, we now have a weekly newsletter going out every Sunday. I've added the link to it in the description. You can sign up on our website. We try and give practical advice to help people get off the default path and build a life they love. And with that being said, thanks for listening again, and we hope to see you next week.